Hoverboard racer and Olympian to werehog and playa, good old Sonic has tried to be everything lately, except a fleet-footed hedgehog. Perpetuating this cycle of despair and self-loathing, the blue blur has now bartered away his shoes for a sword in Sonic and the Black Knight, a medieval mashup that places its hopes in a whimsical storybook world. It's a fanciful quest, to say the least, but some fairy tales don't have a happy ending.
If you say so.
He is no knight, at least not yet.
Says you.
Picking up shop from 2007's Secret Rings, Sonic and the Black Knight marks the Rapid Rodent's second foray into Fantasyland. Only this time, Alibaba goes bye-bye for a medieval setting rife with enchanted swords, noble knights, and cute pink-haired sorceresses.
Forgive my abrupt summons.
Okay, so it's not quite Camelot, but this land is in need of a hero as any. King Arthur has become possessed by Excalibur's cursed scabbard, placing the task of liberating the kingdom on the spiny one's lap. Obviously, Black Knight takes some peppy liberties with one of Britain's most treasured legends.
But was that really the king himself? I mean, he seemed way different in the stories.
The end result is so exceedingly silly and light that it's hard not to just shrug and go along for the ride. The text is treated with the tone of a Saturday morning cartoon, and requisite cameos by some of the series' most notable faces keep things decidedly tongue-in-cheek. Not once does Sonic and the Black Knight take itself completely seriously, and that's definitely a good thing.
Hey, come on! Isn't it about time you gave me a little credit?
So what's a knight with blue fur and sick kicks to do? Take up a sword and dole out pointy justice across a map dotted with missions, of course. Some are as simple as getting to the end of the stage, though the occasional screwball does manage to sneak in, like killing a certain number of enemies, handing out rings to nearby villagers, or taking out a boss. The somewhat varied objectives keep the hedgehog on his pointed toes, and the non-linear approach to progression invites spirited segues into besting personal scores among the optional challenge-based side missions. The only chinks in the armor here are the levels, which lack a considerable amount of personality compared to the corkscrews and loop-de-loops you expect. They are still jumping to be had, along with promising bits of velocity, but these moments are far too scattered and brief. The overall framework is straightforward, but has a surprising amount of substance and follow-through. Items salvaged from the end of each level can be equipped for bonuses, collected for keeps, and traded among pals via friend codes. Striving for scores carries over into online leaderboards, and a competent, albeit tacked-on multiplayer party mode keeps the gears turning. It's all rounded out by a content-rich gallery mode, a nefarious plot twist, and the ability to play as other fencing furries in the main campaign. Sonic and the Black Knight almost seems like it could be fit for a king, but then you actually play it, and it all goes steeply downhill from there.
Think you could sharpen this dull piece of rust?
Fool, it is you who is dull.
While some steady remnants of Sonic's lineage remains, namely the homing jump attack, most of the emphasis in Black Knight now lies on the new sword-swinging mechanic, propelled through awkward tugs of the Wiimote. Swordplay is a cumbersome test of patience, exacerbated by flailing waggle inputs, and enemy flow that often grinds Sonic's stage progression to a screeching halt. There's just no fun in being held up mid-sprint through a level, especially in a Sonic game. Taking on blockade after blockade of enemy forces feels more like a chore than a challenge, and the camera is locked onto an ugly frontal angle, making ludicrous backflips necessary if you want to backtrack through a level or pick off any remaining stragglers. When it comes to wailing with waggle, the inputs are so unresponsive and so imprecise that it makes battle something you want to avoid. You can swing for all your money's worth, but the consistently annoying and cheap enemy shots just make death inevitable. Later on in the game, you'll gain access to a few other knights to mix things up, but funnily enough, the most practical fun you'll get out of the gameplay is with Knuckles' ability to just glide over the competition. It's that bad.
Is that the best that chivalry of yours can do?
If you've ever been told never to run with a pair of scissors, there's a reason. The two just don't go well together, and Sonic and the Black Knight makes that fact all too evident. Some will argue that this is his worst gimmick yet. We can't help but feel the same.
Only death can remove this stain upon my honor.
The speed may be drained from Sonic's world, but it didn't have to drain all the color along with it. A stark contrast to the prismatic emerald hills and chemical plants of yore, Sonic and the Black Knight's drab levels are simply mud by comparison. There's some shine to its rusted sword, though.
I can see a really big tree over there.
The game finds use in picturesque locations to accent its storybook vibe, and the voice acting is capably amusing.
I've been waiting for you, knight from another world.
Whoa!
Fool, where are you going?
But that's...
You are being rude to the Lady of the Lake.
The soundtrack fills its respective niche of fantasy meets Fender guitars, but like most of the music in Sonic games, the tunes are more grating than catchy. Needless to say, Sonic's been off the cutting edge for a while now, and Black Knight isn't poised to bring him back anytime soon.
This could go on forever.
These days, it always seems like Sonic's waiting for that next big thing. Try as he might, his latest take with Black Knight is not it. Why Sega decided to skewer one of our beloved childhood heroes on the tip of a clunky sword-swinging spree is beyond us. But at this point, it simply hurts.
I'm Sonic the Hedgehog, Knight of the Wind.
Maybe someday we'll live to see Sonic take back the speed that is so rightfully his, but for now, the only sprinting he'll be doing is on the bad end of a running joke.